Have you ever watched a single drop of red dye fall into a clear glass of water? At first, it is just a speck, a tiny, concentrated point of foreign color. But within seconds, it begins to swirl, expanding outward, tendril by tendril, until the entire glass, once transparent and pure, is stained an irreversible shade of crimson. This is exactly what happens when you react blindly to an emotion. A single moment of anger, a fleeting spark of offense, or a sudden jolt of fear drops into your consciousness. If you react immediately, you become the dye. You allow that one external event to color your entire perception, your decision-making, and your peace of mind. But what if you could suspend that drop in the center of the water? What if you could hold it there, observe it, understand its chemical makeup, and then decide whether to let it dissolve or simply scoop it out? Imagine a life where you are no longer a puppet to the circumstances around you. Picture a version of yourself that stands immovable in the face of insults, calm amidst chaos, and clear-headed when everyone else is losing their minds. This is not a superpower reserved for monks in the Himalayas or billionaires with ice in their veins. It is a biological and psychological capability you already possess, but have likely forgotten how to use. This is the art of non-reaction. It is the subtle, quiet power that distinguishes the master from the amateur, the leader from the follower, and the peaceful from the tormented. Over the next several hours, we are going to walk a path together. We will dissect the biology of your rage, explore the philosophy of your ego, and hand you the keys to the most sophisticated control room in existence, your own mind. Chapter 1. The Ancient Machinery. To understand why we react, we must first look at the machine that generates the reaction. You are operating a 21st century life with hardware that hasn't had a significant software update in 200,000 years. Let us travel back to the savanna of our ancestors. Imagine you are walking through tall grass. Suddenly, you hear the snap of a twig behind you. In that microsecond, you do not contemplate the philosophical implications of the sound. You do not wonder if it is the wind or a friendly gathering. Your heart rate spikes, your pupils dilate, and your muscles flood with glucose. You are ready to fight a lion or run for your life. This is the amygdala, the alarm bell of the brain, doing its job perfectly. It bypasses your logical brain, the prefrontal cortex, because logic is slow, and on the savanna, slow means dead. Fast forward to today. You are sitting in a climate-controlled office, and your phone buzzes. It is an email from your boss, phrased in a way that feels slightly dismissive, or perhaps you are in traffic, and someone cuts you off. The twig has snapped again. Your amygdala does not know the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and a passive-aggressive email. It perceives a threat. It hijacks your system. You feel the heat rise in your chest. Your hands might shake. You type a furious reply, or you scream at the windshield. You have reacted. You have survived the tiger that wasn't there, but you have burned a bridge, raised your blood pressure, and disturbed your peace. This phenomenon is often called the amygdala hijack. It is a biological override. When you are in this state, your IQ literally drops. You lose access to empathy, creativity, and long-term planning. This is why, after a heated argument, you often think of the perfect comeback or the rational solution 20 minutes later. That is your logical brain finally coming back online after the chemical storm has passed. Understanding this is the first step to power. When you feel that surge of immediate, hot emotion, you must realize that you are being tricked by your own evolution. You are a modern consciousness trapped in an ancient survival suit. The realization itself is the first wedge you drive between the stimulus and your response. You are not angry. You are experiencing a biological flare-up. You are not under attack. Your chemistry is misfiring. This brings us to a crucial distinction. Not reacting does not mean not feeling. Many people mistake emotional control for suppression. They think they must become robots, pushing their feelings down until they explode. That is not the goal. The goal is alchemy. It is about feeling the emotion, fully acknowledging the heat, the racing heart, the indignation, but refusing to let those sensations turn into kinetic action. It is the ability to watch the storm rage outside the window without opening the door and letting the rain destroy your furniture. The cost of failing to learn this is astronomical. Look at the wreckage of your past. How many relationships were damaged not by a mistake, but by the reaction to the mistake? How many career opportunities were lost because of a moment of defensiveness? How many hours of sleep have you lost replaying a conflict where you lost your cool? Reaction is the thief of time and the destroyer of potential. When you react, you are giving your power away. You are telling the world, and the people in it, that they have the remote control to your emotional state. All they have to do is press a button, and you will dance. Is that how you want to live, as a marionette with strings leading out to every stranger you meet? Chapter 2. The Gap Between Worlds. There is a space. It is infinitesimally small, yet it contains the entire universe of your freedom. The Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the unimaginable horrors of Nazi concentration camps, discovered this space in the bleakest of conditions. He realized that while his captors could control his environment, his body, and his food, they could not control his internal response to what was happening. He famously said that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Most of us live life with zero gap. Stimulus, response. Stimulus, response. Someone insults us, we insult back. We get bad news, we panic. We are like a knee that kicks automatically when tapped with a rubber mallet. We call this being human, but it is actually being mechanical. The power of not reacting is the practice of widening that gap. It is about stretching that split second into 2 seconds, then 5, then 10. Think of your mind as a busy train station. Thoughts and emotions are the trains screaming through the platforms. Most people jump on every train that arrives. A train of, "he disrespected me" pulls in, and you board it immediately, riding it all the way to Resentment City. A train of "I am not good enough" arrives, and you hop on, taking the express route to depression. The master of non-reaction stands on the platform. They watch the trains come. They watch the trains go. They read the destination signs, but they do not board unless they choose to. How do we widen the gap? We must introduce a pause. This sounds simple, almost insultingly so, but it is the hardest thing you will ever do in the heat of the moment. When the emotional wave hits you, your entire body screams at you to act, to speak, to correct, to defend. To widen the gap, you must do the opposite. You must do nothing. This is not a passive nothing. It is an active, muscular stillness. It is the stillness of a predator waiting, or a mountain enduring. In that pause, you engage a new superpower, the observer self. This is the part of your consciousness that can watch you having an emotion. It is the voice that says, "Wow, I am feeling incredibly angry right now. My chest is tight. I really want to yell at this person." Notice the language. It is not, "I am angry." It is, "I am feeling anger." This slight shift in syntax creates a massive shift in reality. You are disidentifying from the emotion. You are the sky. The anger is just a cloud passing through. Clouds can be dark, stormy, and thunderous, but they can never damage the sky. The sky is vast, untouched, and permanent. The cloud is temporary. When you practice being the observer, you begin to see patterns. You realize that your reactions are rarely about the present moment. They are almost always echoes of the past. That comment from your spouse didn't hurt because it was true. It hurt because it triggered an insecurity you have carried since you were 15. That traffic jam isn't frustrating because you will be 5 minutes late. It is frustrating because you have a deep-seated need for control that is being challenged. The gap gives you the time to ask the golden question. What is actually happening right now? Not what I think is happening, not what I fear is happening, but what is physically taking place. Usually, the answer is benign. A person made a sound with their mouth. A car occupies a space on the asphalt. An electronic screen displays pixels forming words. When you strip away the narrative, the sting evaporates. Chapter 3. The Empty Boat. Let us journey into a parable that illustrates the absurdity of our reactions. There is an old Taoist story about a man crossing a river. He is rowing his small boat upstream. It is a foggy morning, and visibility is low. Suddenly, out of the mist, he sees another boat coming directly toward him. He yells, "Watch out! Turn aside!" But the boat keeps coming. He screams louder, "You fool! You are going to hit me." The boat crashes into his, splintering the wood. The man is furious. He stands up, fists clenched, ready to curse the incompetence of the other rower. But when he looks into the other boat, he sees that it is empty. It had simply drifted loose from the dock and floated downstream with the current. In an instant, the man's anger vanishes. There is no one to yell at, no one to blame. He cannot take it personally because there is no intent. He simply fixes his boat and moves on. Now, consider this. What if he had looked into the boat and saw a person steering it? His anger would have remained. He would have felt victimized, disrespected, and targeted. But here is the secret of the universe. The boat is always empty. Every person who triggers you, every situation that upsets you, is acting according to their own currents, their own winds, and their own broken tethers. The driver who cut you off, he is fighting a battle with his own stress, late for a job he hates, driven by the current of his own misery. He is an empty boat. The colleague who stole your credit, they are driven by a deep current of inadequacy and fear of being invisible. They are an empty boat. When you realize that people act based on their own internal programming and suffering, and not because of you, you stop taking it personally. We walk around with a spotlight effect, believing we are the main character in everyone else's movie. We think people are doing things to us. In reality, they are just doing things, and we happen to be standing in the way. Taking things personally is the fuel of reaction. It is the ego screaming, "How dare you treat me this way?" The non-reactive mind whispers, "This has nothing to do with me." This does not mean you become a doormat. You can still steer your boat out of the way. You can still set boundaries. You can still say, "You cannot crash into me." But you do it without the toxicity of anger. You do it with the clarity of a captain navigating around a drifting log. When you remove the ego from the equation, you remove the friction. You become transparent. The arrow passes through you because there is no solid mass of self-importance for it to strike. Think about the most charismatic and powerful people you have encountered. Do they snap at waiters? Do they lose their temper when the Wi-Fi goes down? Usually, no. They possess a kind of gravitational pull that comes from self-containment. They are the eye of the storm. Chaos swirls around them, but they remain grounded. This is attractive. We are biologically drawn to leaders who can remain calm because, to our ancestors, the calm leader was the one who could figure out how to escape the predator. Panic is contagious, but so is calm. When you choose not to react, you become the leader in the room, regardless of your job title. You anchor the energy. You transform the dynamic. Chapter 4. The Illusion of Control. We react because we want control. We believe that if we get angry enough, if we worry enough, if we assert ourselves loudly enough, we can bend reality to our will. We think our emotions are levers that can move the world, but this is the great illusion. The Stoic philosophers, arguably the grandfathers of non-reaction, categorized the world into two buckets: things up to us and things not up to us. Epictetus, a slave-turned philosopher, taught that the only things truly under our control are our judgments, our intentions, and our desires. Everything else, our body, our property, our reputation, and the actions of others, is external and ultimately beyond our command. Suffering arises when we try to control the external bucket with the tools of the internal bucket. You cannot control what someone says about you. You can only control how much you value their opinion. You cannot control the economy. You can only control your spending and your skills. When you react with anger to a rainy day, you are shouting at the clouds. It is madness. Yet we do this metaphorically every single day. We are emotionally invested in outcomes that we have zero hand in crafting. The power of not reacting is essentially the power of radical acceptance. It is looking at reality in the face and saying, I accept that this is what is happening. Acceptance is not resignation. It is not giving up. It is simply the refusal to argue with the present moment. You cannot effectively deal with a problem if you are busy denying its existence or raging against its unfairness. Once you accept, okay, this deal has fallen through, or okay, this person is yelling at me, you can proceed to the next step. What is the most constructive action I can take? This is where the checkmate mindset comes in. In a game of chess, if your opponent makes a surprising move that threatens your queen, you do not flip the board. You do not scream at the bishop. You pause. You analyze the board. You look for the counter move. Emotional reaction is flipping the board. Non-reaction is studying the board. Imagine you are negotiating a salary. Your boss offers a number lower than you expected. The reactive person feels insulted. Their stomach drops. They might say, "That is ridiculous. I work harder than anyone here." They have just revealed their hand. They have shown that they are emotional, easily rattled, and seeking validation. The non-reactive person hears the number. They feel the disappointment, but they do not show it. They sit in silence. They look at the boss calmly. They might say, "I am surprised by that figure. Based on my contributions, I was expecting something closer to X." The difference is subtle but profound. One is a plea for fairness. The other is a business statement. One is weak. The other is strong. Silence is one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. We are conditioned to fill silence because it makes us uncomfortable. But in conflict, silence is a mirror. When someone attacks you and you remain silent, looking them in the eye without malice, you force them to hear the echo of their own words. They expect resistance to prop up their aggression. When you give them empty space, they often stumble. They start to justify themselves. They backtrack, or they simply run out of steam. Silence signals that you are considering their words, not just preparing your own. It signals that you are not threatened. Chapter 5. Rewriting the narrative. We must understand that events themselves are neutral. A rainy day is good for the farmer and bad for the bride. The rain is just water falling from the sky. The label good or bad is applied by the observer. This leads us to a revolutionary concept. We are the authors of our own misery. The mechanism works like this. Event plus interpretation equals emotion. Event: a friend doesn't text you back. Interpretation A: they are busy. Emotion: neutrality. Interpretation B: they are mad at me. Interpretation C: they are rude and don't value my time. Emotion: anger. The event is identical in all three scenarios. The only variable is the story you told yourself about the event. Most of us are terrible storytellers. We default to the genre of tragedy or horror. We assume the worst intent. We catastrophize. The power of not reacting allows you to hack this process. When the event happens, you catch yourself before the interpretation solidifies. You say, wait, is there another way to look at this? This is called cognitive reframing. It is the ability to pick up the lens through which you view the world and swap it for a clearer one. Let's say you lose your job. The initial reaction is panic and shame. The narrative is, I am a failure, my life is over. But if you engage the pause, you can rewrite the script. The new narrative could be, this job was making me miserable. I now have the freedom to pursue the career I actually want. This is a wake-up call, not a funeral. Suddenly, the emotion shifts from despair to excitement. The facts haven't changed, you are still unemployed, but the internal reality has transformed completely. You have turned a prison into a launching pad. This requires a certain level of mental discipline. It requires you to be suspicious of your first thought. Your first thought is usually your conditioning speaking. It is your mother's voice, your society's voice, your fear's voice. Your second or third thought that is where your wisdom lives. There is a concept in psychology called the locus of control. People with an external locus of control believe that life happens to them. They are victims of luck, fate, and other people. People with an internal locus of control believe that they make things happen. Non-reaction is the ultimate shift to an internal locus. You stop blaming the traffic for your mood. You stop blaming your partner for your happiness. You take full responsibility for your internal state. This is terrifying to some, because it means you have no one left to blame. But it is incredibly liberating. If you are the cause of your own suffering, it means you are also the cure. Chapter 6. The Physiology of Calm. Let us get practical. We have talked about philosophy and psychology, but we live in biological bodies. You cannot think your way out of a panic attack easily. Sometimes you have to work with the hardware. When the amygdala hijack happens, your body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. This is a chemical reality. You need a physical protocol to flush it out. The most effective tool you have is your breath. This sounds like a cliché, but it is physiological fact. Your breath is the remote control for your nervous system. When you are stressed, you take short, shallow breaths into your upper chest. This signals to your brain that the tiger is chasing you, keeping you in fight or flight mode. To switch off the alarm, you must engage the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. There is a specific technique called the physiological sigh. It was identified by neuroscientists as the fastest way to reduce autonomic arousal. It works like this: 2 inhales through the nose, followed by a long, extended exhale through the mouth. The first inhale fills the lungs. The second, shorter inhale pops open the tiny air sacs in the lungs called alveoli, which tend to collapse under stress. The long exhale offloads carbon dioxide. Doing this just 2 or 3 times can physically force your heart rate down. Another technique is the 90-second rule. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, a Harvard brain scientist, explains that the chemical lifespan of an emotion in the body is roughly 90 seconds. When you get angry, there is a chemical surge. If you do not feed that surge with thoughts, if you don't replay the story, if you don't call your friend to complain, if you don't ruminate, the chemicals will flush out of your bloodstream in a minute and a half. The problem is, we re-stimulate the circuit. We think a thought that triggers the chemicals again. We create a loop. But if you can just hold on for 90 seconds, breathe, look at your watch, distract yourself with a math problem or the sensation of your feet on the floor, the intense urge to react will subside. The wave will crash, and you will be left standing in the shallow water, clear-headed. Think of it like surfing. You cannot stop the waves from coming, but you can choose which ones to ride. The urge to lash out is a massive, choppy wave. If you wait, it passes. Behind it, there might be a smaller, smoother wave called reasonable discussion. Ride that one. Chapter 7. The Art of Detachment. There is a paradox in desire. The more you desperately want something, the more you push it away. This applies to respect, love, and success. When you are reactive, you are vibrating with neediness. You need the other person to understand you. You need the situation to go your way. This neediness is palpable and repulsive. Detachment is the antidote. Detachment does not mean you don't care. It means you are not attached to the specific outcome. You do your best, you speak your truth, and then you release the result. You throw the ball and you don't worry about whether it is caught. In relationships, this is transformative. When you are attached to your partner behaving in a certain way, you are constantly monitoring them, judging them, and reacting to them. You are suffocating the love. When you detach, you allow them to be who they are. You find your own center. Paradoxically, this usually draws them closer to you. Consider the metaphor of the rock and the water. The reactive person is the water, constantly changing shape, splashing, evaporating, and freezing based on the environment. The non-reactive person is the rock in the stream. The water flows around it. The rock gets wet, yes, but it does not move. It does not change its essence because the water is cold or fast. Be the rock. This requires you to have a strong core of values. You must know who you are. If you know you are honest, an accusation of lying will not rattle you. It will seem confused and incorrect, like someone calling a telephone a banana. You wouldn't get angry. You would just be puzzled. We only react defensively when we doubt ourselves. If someone calls you stupid and you secretly fear you are not smart enough, you will explode. If you are confident in your intelligence, you will laugh. Therefore, the path to non-reaction is paved with self-knowledge and self-worth. Chapter 8. The Protocol of the Pause. Let us construct a concrete battle plan. You are going into a high-stress meeting or a holiday dinner with difficult relatives. How do you prepare? Step 1. Visualization. Athletes visualize their races. You must visualize your emotional triggers. See the difficult person. Hear their voice. Imagine them saying that thing they always say. Now, imagine yourself hearing it and simply smiling. Imagine the feeling of the trigger sliding off you like oil on water. By mentally rehearsing the non-reaction, you are laying down neural pathways that make the actual event easier to handle. Step 2. The physical anchor. Create a physical cue that reminds you to pause. It could be pressing your thumb and forefinger together. It could be taking a sip of water. When the trigger happens, perform the anchor. This breaks the automatic circuit. It buys you that split second. Step 3. The labeling. When the emotion rises, label it. Say internally, here is frustration. Here is defensive pride. Here is anxiety. As we discussed, naming the demon weakens its hold. Step 4. The curative question. Ask yourself, will this matter in 1 year? If the answer is no, which it usually is, let it go immediately. If the answer is yes, then ask, what action will make me proud of myself in 1 year? Reacting with vitriol is almost never the answer to that second question. Step 5. The exit. If you cannot maintain your cool, leave. There is no shame in a strategic retreat. Say, I need to think about this. Let's continue this conversation in an hour. Remove yourself from the environment. Go for a walk. Change the input, and you will change the output. Chapter 9. The Ripple Effect. We often think of non-reaction as a selfish act, something we do for our own peace, but it is actually a gift to the world. We live in a society that is addicted to outrage. Social media algorithms are designed to keep us in a state of constant, low-level fury. We are trained to take offense, to pick sides, to scream into the void. When you refuse to play this game, you become a circuit breaker in the collective consciousness. When someone comes to you with gossip and you do not react with glee, the gossip dies. When someone comes to you with conflict and you meet them with patience, the conflict de-escalates. You stop the transmission of trauma. Imagine a family where the father learns not to react to his work stress by yelling at his children. That single change alters the trajectory of those children's lives. They learn that home is safe. They learn how to regulate their own emotions by watching him. They grow up to be calmer adults who raise calmer children. The ripple effect of one person getting their emotions under control can travel through generations. You are also protecting your health. Chronic reaction is chronic stress. It destroys your immune system, ages your heart, and rewires your brain for anxiety. By choosing not to react, you are literally adding years to your life. You are preserving your vital energy for things that actually matter: your creativity, your passions, your loved ones. Think of your energy like a bank account. Every reaction is a withdrawal. A petty argument costs you $50. A day of road rage costs you $100. A week of stewing over an insult costs you $1,000. Before you know it, you are emotionally bankrupt. You have nothing left for your dreams. The non-reactive person is miserly with their energy. They only spend it on high-value investments. They save it for building, loving, and creating. Chapter 10. The Master's Journey. As we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a vision of what is possible. The journey to becoming non-reactive is not a straight line. You will fail. You will lose your temper. You will say things you regret. That is part of the process. Do not react to your own reactions. Do not judge yourself for slipping. Simply notice it, apologize if necessary, and reset. There is a state of being that the Japanese samurai sought, called mushin, or no mind. It is a state of flow where the mind is not fixed on anything and is open to everything. In this state, the swordsman does not plan his next move. He simply responds effortlessly to the environment. This is the ultimate level of non-reaction. It is not rigid stiffness. It is fluid adaptability. You are striving for a life where you are the captain of your soul. A life where your happiness is not a fragile vase that can be shattered by a careless passerby, but a deep underground spring that feeds you regardless of the weather on the surface. Remember the power of the pause. Remember the empty boat. Remember that you are the sky, not the clouds. The world will keep spinning. People will keep being imperfect. Challenges will keep arriving at your doorstep. You cannot stop the waves, but you have learned how to surf. The next time you feel the heat rising, the next time the match is struck, take a deep breath, look at the flame, and realize that you do not have to be the dynamite. You can be the water. You can be the vast, deep, extinguishing ocean of calm. The choice, in that microsecond of silence, is entirely yours. Chapter 11. Integration and Application. It is one thing to understand these concepts while listening to a calm voice in a quiet room. It is entirely another to apply them when the pressure is on. Knowledge without application is merely entertainment. Let us focus on how to integrate this into the messy, loud reality of your daily existence. Start small. Do not try to be a Zen master during a divorce proceeding or a lawsuit on day one. Start with low-stakes triggers. Start with the weather. If it rains when you wanted sun, practice accepting it instantly. Say, "It is raining." No story, no complaint, just the fact. Start with inanimate objects. When your computer freezes, observe your irritation. Do not hit the keyboard. Watch the loading icon and breathe. These are your training weights. Next, move to strangers. The barista who gets your order wrong. The slow walker on the sidewalk. These people are perfect practice partners because the emotional stakes are low. You don't know them. Practice assuming positive intent. Maybe the slow walker has a knee injury. Maybe the barista is new. Practice grace. Finally, bring it to your inner circle. This is the black belt level. Our families know exactly how to push our buttons because they are the ones who installed them. When you are with your parents, your partner, or your children, be hyper-vigilant. Expect the trigger. When it comes, celebrate it. Ah, there it is, the old pattern. Smile at it. Step over it. Journaling can be a powerful tool for integration. At the end of the day, do a reaction audit. Review your day. Where did you lose your cool? What was the trigger? What was the story you told yourself? Where did you succeed? Where did you manage to pause? By reviewing the game tape, you learn faster. You begin to spot the patterns before they happen. You might also find it helpful to change your vocabulary. Stop using language that casts you as a victim. Instead of, "He made me so mad," say, "I felt anger when he spoke." Instead of, "I have to do this," say, "I choose to do this." Words shape reality. Speak like a person who is in control, and you will begin to feel like one. Chapter 12. The Final Insight. We have traversed the landscape of human emotion, from the biological roots of our rage to the philosophical peaks of our freedom. We have learned that reaction is a habit, and like any habit, it can be broken. We have learned that silence is strength, that the ego is a liar, and that the present moment is the only place where we can truly live. But there is one final secret. The ultimate power of not reacting comes from a deep, abiding compassion. When you truly understand that everyone is fighting a hard battle, that everyone is driven by their own fears and conditioning, it becomes impossible to hate them. You look at the angry person, and you don't see an enemy. You see a suffering human being trapped in a burning building of their own making. You feel pity, not rage. You feel a desire to help, not to hurt. This shift from judgment to compassion is the final liberation. It releases you from the burden of taking offense. You become light. You walk through the world with an open heart, but a tough skin. You become a refuge for others. As you go forward from this moment, carry this image with you. You are a mountain. The winds of criticism may blow. The rains of disappointment may fall. The storms of crisis may rage, but the mountain does not bow to the wind. It does not dissolve in the rain. It stands, rooted, ancient, silent. The storms will pass. They always do. And when the clouds clear, the mountain will still be there, bathed in the light of the sun, stronger for having endured. You are the mountain. Be immovable. Be peaceful. Be free.